Back in the spring of 2013, I had been experiencing a lot of pain. I'd had a recurring problem with an ovarian cyst, and the pain got to be so bad that I had to go to the doctor. So I went and I saw my doctor, and they decided to do an ultrasound. And I was really just expecting them to say that it was a cyst and go from there. And I knew that things weren't right when they called me in and said, we need to have the doctor actually come in and speak with you. So the doctor came in and he said, yes, you do have a cyst, but you also have a lot of fibroids on your uterus. And so we're going to need to do surgery to take care of everything. But he held my hand and he said, but I don't want you to think cancer. This is not cancer. And I said, okay. And so about a month later, I had the surgery and everything went well with the surgery. And I was, expecting that to be the end of it when I received a call from the doctor. And I can remember very clearly standing in my kitchen, and it's just like people say that it is when you get that news, but you can't really understand it until you experience it. And I remember standing there and him just saying over the phone, this is really unusual for people your age, but we did find cancer. And at that moment, everything just kind of stops. And I just remember thinking, wait, did he really just say that I have cancer? And everything just kind of gets fuzzy around it. But I was really grateful that my parents were there with me at the time, and I was able to talk to them about it. And about a week later, when I went for my post-op appointment, my doctor was just saying, he even told me at that early stage, he said, I know that God's hand has been in this for a couple different reasons. One, he said, if he had gone by the book, he would have never even done the surgery, that there was just something in him that said he needed to do that surgery. And a couple other things along the way, just in the way that the procedure turned out, where he said, normally I do it this way, but for some reason it just wouldn't work. And now that I know that you have cancer, I know that was God looking out for you. So from the very beginning, I knew that God's hand was in things, but that still doesn't make it less scary necessarily. And so a week later, I remember being here at church, and Pastor Steve did a sermon about David and Goliath, and what is your Goliath? And at the altar call, he had a time for people who wanted to come up and just have prayer for whatever Goliath they were facing. And so he was one of the first people that I told about it. And I remember him saying to me, do you believe that God is going to heal you? And I said, yes, and I really meant it. And from that moment forward, I really just believed that God was going to take care of things. And so I went to see the oncologist about a month later, and that was really difficult, having to wait. I wanted to have a plan right away and know what was going to happen and have things all figured out. And I had to wait just even a month to get in to see the oncologist. And during that time, God gave me a verse and a passage of scripture that I really meditated on, and it's from 2 Chronicles, and it's about King Asa, who was the king of Judah, and the king of Israel had gone up against King Asa, so he went out and made his own treaty with Syria. And the prophet came to King Asa and said to him, did you not trust that God would take care of things? And through that passage, he gave me a verse that says, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, seeking those he can help who are loyal to him. And I just meditated on that verse. I still have it on the whiteboard in my bathroom. And I really felt like God was saying, you need to trust me in this and not try to figure things out. I didn't get on the internet. I didn't really even ask people's opinion. I just really felt like God was saying, just take this time and trust me. So when I met with the oncologist, he was giving me some options, and he said, there's a new treatment out. We can give you an IUD, and it's going to put progesterone into your uterus, and we'll wait 6 months and do an MRI and go from there. And if it's successful, then you're good to go. And if it's not, then you'll have to have a hysterectomy and surgery, things like that. So decided to go with that. And again, didn't look on the internet. I didn't want to find anything out, and just trusted God in that. And so it was about 6 months later, I had to have the MRI. And shortly after the MRI, I met with my regular doctor and asked him to take a look at it. And he had seen the MRI, but didn't even realize it was mine. And went and looked at it again and came back in. He said, yeah, I didn't even know I was looking at yours when I looked at it. He said, it looks good. And at that moment, it was just such relief. I really felt that it was a confirmation of what God had promised. And so a little bit later, I was able to speak with the oncologist, and the exact words the oncologist had were, "We don't see any cancer at all." And I knew that it was a complete healing from God, and so grateful to him in that moment that he was faithful to do what he said he would do. And through it all, I think one thing I've learned, I just go back to that verse that I tend to be a person who wants to figure things out and be a problem solver and handle things. And when I get to everything I can do, that's when I'll go to God. And through this, I think he just reminded me that I need to trust him no matter what, because even since then, I've looked things up, and the treatment they use for me is, you won't find it on the internet. In fact, you'll find quite the opposite. They'll say, don't use this with cancer. And that's why I know God said, don't look at anything, because he didn't want me to have that fear. And so I'm just really grateful and still learning that I need to go to him and trust him first.